And so moving through here, we're just going to kind of flip through these to kind of see the progression, but I just wanted to give you a sense of looking at the panel subdivisions. We're subdividing each of these triangular panels, but we're also looking at how we're tiling the overall image by the same token. So across the upper image that you see there, we can see we start with the triangle and we start to subdivide that to different degrees, and that allows us to really keep the perforation patterning aligned with the panel. And then we're looking at the vertex mapping, where we're starting to kind of use that to kind of create some of the fall off between our solid and void. And then the lower left image is showing our overall image and how it's tiled. And so you can see here, this is a 2x2, and if you look closely down the center line of that lower left image, you can see where it's mirrored.
Mm-hmm.
So that's taking that overall image and it's mirroring it for a 2x tile.
So let me ask you, I don't know what when you're over here when you're talking about vertex mapping display and recursive midpoint, what does that all mean? I don't know what that means.
So essentially what we're doing there is we're kind of, when we divide the upper one with the panel subdivision that says the centroid mapping display, so we're creating a centroid within each of those subdivisions. So if we look at the 16 faces subdivisions, we have a centroid associated with each of those triangles. And down below where we're doing the vertex mapping display, what we're doing is we're jumbling those subdivisions that we see in the upper level. And we're kind of jumbling those and switching them around in a way that further abstracts that image. And so you could think about it as if you divided that photograph of our face that we talked about earlier into a 10 by 10 grid, and you started to take one of those cells and switch it in place with another one to get a little bit of a jitter to it. That's kind of what we're doing with that vertex mapping.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, and so as we flip through these, you can just start to see we go from a 2x2 to a 4x4 tiling, 6x6, and we're just iterating, you know, kind of through a lot of these, and really the idea is I call it, I always kind of want to test the threshold of either side. You know, if we tile it one time versus 20 times, just to kind of see how far we can push it, and that essentially gives us our kind of crude solution space. And so we know that, okay, we want to kind of focus on something, that looks visually pleasing in this area, but kind of meets our criteria with everything. And so where we are right now, we're at a 4x4 tiling, and that's taking this image and it's used 4 times across the entire surface that we're seeing.
And to be specific, just so I'm following, so here's just sort of an axon of the roof skin element, right? And when you're saying 8x8, you've taken your image, you've tiled it. So it's in an 8x8 configuration, and then you've taken that and you essentially applied that over here onto the skin. Is that right?
Exactly.
But what you're saying is you guys ultimately decided to go with this 4x4. Is that right?
That's where we are today. Yes. And so that 4x4, what that gives us is, again, it's that read at the various distances. So that's what you'll see in some of the renderings as we kind of flow through the next slides.
Okay.
And so here, really what we're showing, it's just simply kind of looking at the pixels to the panel. And so we're seeing the image tiling of a 2x2 on the left, 3x3 in the middle, and a 4x4 on the right. And these are just kind of looking at this. You see the overall image stretched across the bottom. You see the axon, and then above you see kind of a zoom in look. And so this goes all the way to an 8x8 tiling is what we're showing. Okay. So the next slide, when we talked earlier in the week, we talked about, with this tiling, is it going to be visible on the skin, and if so, how much? And so I just wanted to show here, so you can see this is just kind of a rendering of a portion of this entire project that we kind of see this image going across. And if you flip to the next slide here, I've just kind of indicated that's where we're seeing one of those 4 tiling. That's one seam between the image right there.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And so even though it's going to be tiled, there will still never be an identical triangle to another one because of the position, the way they're rationalized across the surface, and the way the perforation pattern is kind of floating irrespective of that overall structural diagrid. So yeah, if you really know where to look, you could probably see the seam, but it's going to be hidden fairly well.